Hello, I'm Kara from Kara Tarot, and thank you for joining me again for 5 on Deck. This is a learning series where we take the same card from 5 different decks, we compare the illustrations and the cards, and then we read what's written in the individual little white books that comes with the cards. And then if there's a larger book that comes with the cards, I read that too. And then finally, I close with 1 or 2 additional readings about that card from other respected authors. So today, the card is one that I was given. I am taking a course from Tarot Arts. The store in California has an online and in-person course of lectures taught by James Jude. I hope I got that correctly. And this is about the Tarot's most unusual decks. So he's talking not just about the history of the Tarot, which it is quite intensive about the history, but also selecting out some of the more unusual decks or decks that were real turning points in the history of Tarot. If you get the chance to take this group of lectures with him, it's really well done. He's very informative, and he also he's very appreciative of the people who have come before and whose work he stands on the shoulder of. And so he also has a great bibliography and other references for you to explore on your own. So as a thank you gift, we were all sent a card from I believe this is from the Pierpont Morgan Visconti-Sforza deck. And the reason I think it's the Pierpont Morgan is because I have that deck and this matches that. So this card arrived in the mail about 2 days after my chronic lung illnesses hit me. This is the Page of Swords, the card that we will be exploring today. And right now, I am not having very good feelings towards this guy. I'm actually thinking that Page of Swords might mean piece of shit, because he arrived with my lung problems, and he is known for being a messenger who brings you difficult news. And if you get through the difficulty, then you're doing okay. And well, that would be my chronic lung problems. So I'm not feeling particularly fond of him right now, but I will withhold my judgment. I will not solidify that interpretation until we look at some of the other interpretations. And so we'll get started by looking at all 5 of the cards and comparing them. I will just tell you these decks are from left to right. The Rider-Waite Smith, the Dreaming Way Tarot, the Visconti-Sforza Pierpont Morgan, the Classic Tarot by Lo Scarabeo, and the Wise Dogs Tarot by M.J. Cullinane. So if we look along the line at all of them, one of the things that we see is they seem rather at ease. They seem to be either pausing for thought. In some definitions of this, when the person or the page is looking away from the item, that means he's thinking about something else, not prepared to use it. So that would be the case for 1, 2, 3, and number 4 certainly seems to be looking beyond it, and number 5, the dog, seems to be looking beyond. One thing we see in all of them is that they are in a landscape. And the landscape seems rather unpopulated. So while it might be a beautiful landscape in some of the cases, it is an unpopulated landscape. So this is someone, as typical with a page, probably traveling, a messenger. This is often considered to be a messenger. The Rider-Waite Smith is dressed in red, and even his face and hands are red, which would imply a great deal of passion This is an air sign, so passion of thought. And the sky is blue and bright with birds flying in the sky. And the wind appears to be blowing because his ponytail is blowing in the wind. So here we have a great deal of passion, but also not ready to fight, looking away from his sword, and appears to be standing, almost posing with his sword, perhaps in practice, but definitely not prepared to go for battle. The second one of the reasons I included this is many of the pages now in modern decks are represented by young women. So I liked that about this card for this. She has more of a small scimitar type sword and appears to be covering her face. So this again ties in with some of the definitions of the card as being perhaps bringing difficult news, having difficulty saying something, covering up her mouth. The landscape that she's in appears to be rather bleak and gray. So perhaps this message that she's bringing is not very bright. My friend from the Visconti-Sforza deck definitely seems to be quite the dandy. You can't interpret much from his blonde hair because apparently the Visconti-Sforza family were Italian blondes, so almost all of the court cards are represented with blonde people. So you can't necessarily attribute that to any of the traditional historic associations with blondness. Although this young page does appear to be rather effeminate in his stance, and his sword is in the ground, so he's definitely not ready to go. My first impression of this is he's kind of saying, well, are you ready? As if he's waiting for someone else to come along. The page from the classic tarot appears to be a bit older and a bit more ready, but still hesitant. The sword is just held up in the air as if wavering in thought. A lot of these cards seem to be pausing. Notice even the dog has one paw lifted, seems to be pausing mid-step to consider something. So these are the common features that we see in these cards. Now I'll go ahead and read what's written in the little white book for some of these cards. As I've said before, there's very little in terms of card definitions with the Giant Rider Tarot deck. There are excerpts from Arthur Edward Waite's The Key to the Tarot. And here he says, Page of Swords. A lithe, active figure holds a sword upright in both hands while in the act of swift walking. Divinatory meaning: authority, overseeing, secret service, vigilance, spying, examination, and the qualities thereto belonging. Reversed, more evil side of these qualities, what is unforeseen, an unprepared state, sickness is also intimated. For the Dreaming Way Tarot by Choi. Page of Swords, upright, asserting what is right and fair, acting with integrity, overcoming setbacks. Reversed can mean foolish decision, irresponsible behavior, or having no confidence. In the book that comes along with the Visconti-Sforza Pierpont Morgan deck, The Page of Swords is shown full face and dressed in armor similar to that worn by the king and knight of his suit. He wears a colorful hat of peacock feathers, similar to the knight's hat. His right hand rests on the hilt of his sword. An ornamental design appears on the breastplate worn over a leather or mail shirt. He stands erect, almost in ballet-like position. The ground beneath his feet contains small clumps of green grass. In the background appear rolling hills, probably once blue in color. Divinatory meanings. This card symbolizes a person adept at perceiving, discerning, and uncovering the unknown or the obscure. The quality of insight, vigilance, agility. A discreet person, an active youth, a lithe figure alert and awake to unknown dangers. A versatile person capable of adjusting to changing conditions. The reverse meaning, revealed as an impostor, unforeseen events which may come to pass in the near future. Illness is also possible, powerless in the face of stronger forces, and lack of preparation. I had to laugh when I looked up the definition in the White Book that comes with the classic tarot from Lo Scarabeo, because it says almost nothing about any of the minors. What it says, the minor arcana, the absence of allegorical images for the minor arcana renders their divinatory interpretation much more difficult. However, each arcanum comes with a brief explanation of its meaning, which will allow even less expert cartomants to feel at ease with such abstract images. For the purposes of divination, the court cards, king, queen, knight, and knave, are generally considered as people who have had or could have had a direct or indirect influence on the life of the querent. On the other hand, the numerical cards are considered as secondary forces, the elements which link the world of ideas, represented by the major arcana, with the phenomenal world, represented by the minor arcana in general. The divinatory interpretation is of the suit, is the following. So for swords, it is the air suit, intellectual, psychological, abstract activity. So not much that comes with the booklet that comes with this. However, I will be reading from a book that is devoted to this deck in its entirety, and it has chosen this beautiful deck as its sole subject. So I'll be reading from that in a bit. I've said in a couple other recent videos that I tend to be rather pip adverse or pip reluctant, but I am pip curious. And I have included 2 pip decks in this for the reason that I can include some of the text from this particular book that I have mentioned also in a couple recent videos. But moving on right now to the Wise Dogs Tarot. If you know much about me, you know I love animals, but I'm not crazy about most animal decks. A lot of animal decks to me have lovely images of the animals, sometimes beautifully rendered, but to me, my personal opinion is many of them strip out the symbols that you need to really be able to read the card well or easily. And some of them just don't have any relationship to the background or imagery of the initial Rider-Waite-Smith cards either. So you really just have a symbol of the animal, and that can be quite difficult. I will say the reason I got this deck, the Wise Dogs Tarot, is because I think it does a really good job of, in many cases, approximating the imagery of the card, even though the featured quote, person, unquote, is a dog. I also think she does a really good job of matching the dog breeds to the topic of the card. And last but not least, she does a really good job of including a lot of the symbols that you will find in the original Rider-Waite-Smith card. Now, as you may remember from this page of swords, there were not a whole lot of symbols. He was wearing red. The landscape is rather barren, even though it's green and the sky is blue. But there are not a whole lot of other symbols in this particular card from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And other than the flowers, which are added, this deck does not have as many symbols either for that reason. The definition in M.J. Cullinane's book for the Page of Swords: speak truth to power and stand firmly along your path without fear or concern of retribution from those whose voices become soulless. When you speak with a clear mind and an honest heart, the sun will shine brightly and warmly on you. Now, in the back of this book, she also has basic symbols, has a couple pages mentioning the symbols that she has included in her deck. We have the sun in the back of this deck, which she has mentioned in the definition. At the bottom here, we see poppies, which represent strength and perseverance. Trees and roots represent cause and effect. And even though the colors overall of this card are white and then autumnal shades, if you look in the back where you can see the sky is bright blue and the sun is shining. But there is an overall darkness to this card, which is fitting with some of the other interpretations that we've read. Now I'd like to read the definition of the Page of Swords from Tarot Life Planner by Lady Lorelei. I have sung the praises of this book in at least 2 other recent videos. This is an excellent book for learning pips, but I will say that it is not exclusive for that. It is set up in such a way, even with colored edges of the sections, that make it a very easy book to pick up and get a quick paragraph definition or description of a card and its divinatory meaning and its reverse meaning, which makes it a really good book for beginners. The title, The Tarot Life Planner, it's not a planner like a calendar. It's in terms of using the tarot to help expand your knowledge of each card, and in doing that, to help expand the elements of your life that are represented by each one of the cards. For the Page of Swords: Heir of Air, Rationalization, Secret. Affirmation: I can help others without any need of acknowledgement. The Page of Swords is ever so slightly sneaky. He acts in the background with all good intent, but preferring to remain unseen. He deals with difficult decisions by resolving them in secret. He understands both sides of the equation and can live undetected on either side of the fence, like a spy or a secret agent. Appearance in a spread. Life seems to go that much easier when this page is around. When he appears, you can be assured there's someone there to help things go your way without you knowing anything about it. He ensures a smooth path by planning ahead for several contingencies. Do a little detective work to find out who it is who you should be thanking for their selflessness. The reversed meaning. Too much air can cause mental illness. The reverse of this card indicates that someone is spying or acting secretly for inappropriate, selfish reasons. This page, in reverse, springs a surprise on you completely out of the blue and then expects endless praise and accolades. And finally, I'll close with a page from the Marseille Tarot revealed. Again, as I said, we do have 2 pip decks in the 5 this time, and the Marseille Tarot is a pip deck. This is a book by Yov Ben-Dov. Page of Swords. The page wields a sword, but he does not look like somebody ready for battle. The sword rests on his shoulder, blocking his view toward the future, and he turns his face away from it. We can also think that if he isn't careful, the sword might cut off his head. Thus, the sword may symbolize not a weapon, but a barrier or a hindrance, such as negative thoughts. The feet pointing in both directions express indecision. They rest on the bottom line of the card in a way that hints both to stability and to lack of movement. They are also closer to the left side. In his other hand, the page holds something that looks like a scabbard. This could be a hint to the suit of wands and to passions that interfere with judgment. The little shape at the groin level, suggestive of a male organ, may indicate a dilemma between desire and intellect. Now again, this is specifically referring to a Tarot de Marseille card, which is not one of our 5, but I included this because it is overall very reflective of a pip deck, and you will see there were definitely some similarities in the Rider-Waite-Smith card to this card. Continuing on. Interpretation. Hesitation, indecision. The querent has resources and abilities, but still doesn't know what to do with them. Examination of the past before making a step towards the future. Fear of facing the reality of things that are to come. The future is perceived as a menace, but this can be put right with a change of approach. Hindering factors can be turned into useful tools and weapons. Confusion resulting from strong desires and misguided ideas. So there you have it, the Page of Swords. We do have somewhat of a mix of interpretations that represent the Page of Swords as rather high-minded. Notably, it is the 2 modern decks, the Dreaming Way Tarot and the Wise Dogs Tarot, which both tend to be more of a positivity deck. They both tend to emphasize the positive attributes of many cards because they both have somewhere in their intentionality an intention to make them less scary and also a little more accessible for younger learners. So it's worth being aware of that when you notice that both of them have this card as meaning to stand up for a high-minded ideal or to stand up against an authority figure, something very, again, very high-minded, very ethical. It's not that those elements are not part of this card, but they're, for the other decks, that's just one element of this card. And the other decks they go all the way to being sneaky or underhanded, depending on the position of the card. As I said, I have read in other places that this is a page, if all of the pages are messengers, this is a page that is bringing you difficult news. He is a page that's on your side. He's a page that wants things to work out well for you. And as this one said, he may be working behind the scenes in your favor, but he's still bringing bad news, and it's often associated with a bad news or bad situation that you have to work through that will require you emphasizing your most high-minded attributes, your strength of character, your strength of intellect. And that if you are able to win that battle, this person is there to step in and assist. But he's not active. He's stepping in he's either doing things behind the scenes or he's stepping in after the fact to assist you. So I think I feel a little better about the Page of Swords, but I don't know that I'd be happy to see him turning up in a reading. How about you? Thanks for listening. I hope this has helped you unpack some of the variety of things that are said about the Page of Swords in this 5 on Deck. I'm Kara with Kara Tarot. Thank you for discovering Kara Tarot. Please like this and subscribe. I look forward to learning more with you again.